How many pigs per acre can you put on your farm? It depends. In this video, I'm going to give you some very specific numbers. Before I give you these numbers and you run off with them, let me just say that you need to pay very, very careful attention to the assumptions that I'm making for you to get started. In a previous video, I thought I did a pretty good job of answering the question, even though I didn't get specific numbers, because it depends on your goals. And there are a lot of different goals you may have when raising pigs. If you're just trying to produce your own meat and nothing else, that's fine. If you're trying to reduce your feed costs, that is going to be a very different answer. And if you're just looking for a place to start so that you don't damage the ground too bad and you're trying to figure out how much space you need total, then you get another answer. And by the end of this video, I'll give you some basic numbers on where I would start if I were starting with pasture-raised pigs and how many pigs per acre I can put on my farm. And I'll also help give you some suggestions for altering that number higher or lower, depending on your goals. If you want to increase soil disturbance, if you want to increase the manure load on the farm, or even if you're trying to reduce your feed costs. Let me give you some assumptions I'm working with. Because after all, how many pigs you put on your farm per acre varies widely. For example, in this 4,000 square foot pen, I've got 7 pigs that weigh a total of 1,500 to 1,800 pounds. And they've been here for a month and a half already, and they will probably be in this pen along with a few other pigs for another couple months or more. But if you were to put 1,500 to 2,000 pounds of pig in a 4,000 square foot pen without any management, it is going to stink to high heavens. But a couple weeks ago, I dumped over 150 yards of wood chips in here, and I just added some leaves to this pen that somebody dropped off at the farm as well. But if it weren't managed right, it could be a disaster. So the first assumption I'm making is that you are going to move your pigs every week, or at least every 10 to 14 days. And if necessary, move them sooner than that. Moving pigs every week or two is one of the best practices because it really limits the amount of destruction that pigs can do on one piece of land. But most importantly, it limits disease and pest cycles. The second assumption that I'm making is that you're just wanting to get the pigs on pasture, gain a little bit of experience grazing the pigs, and figure out that you're not going to get too many pigs or not enough. And so these numbers are just going to give you the basic idea of how frequently to move pigs without messing up your soil too bad, but also allowing your pigs to graze on your pastures or in your wooded lots. The third assumption that I'm making is that you're raising pigs for meat, feeder pigs, and that you're not trying to breed the pigs. If you've never raised pigs on pasture, I do not suggest starting off trying to breed pigs. You've got a fairly decent sized set of skills to learn to begin with. You don't want to try to jump into breeding pigs, figuring out how to farrow them, take care of their health issues and everything else until you get good management of pigs on pasture. Do not try to breed them. You will thank me in the long run, I promise you. So, how many pigs per acre? If you're going to start off with about 5 pigs, I'd suggest giving them about 4,000 square feet per paddock, or 1/10 of an acre. That'll give you a good bit of room to make mistakes. If the pigs are there for 10 days or even 14 days, you shouldn't have too much problem until they get larger. And if you've got good forage, you'll save in some feed costs. So, and if you were to scale those numbers up to 1 acre, that'd be about 50 pigs per acre size paddock. And let me be clear, that's a fairly safe number. I have put over 100 pigs per half acre, but I moved them very, very frequently. At 5 pigs per 4,000 square feet, you've got a good bit of room. Also, if you have just 1 acre of ground and you raise those 5 pigs, giving them 4,000 square feet per spot, then what you'll end up with is 10 individual paddocks. Chances are the pigs won't revisit the same paddock for another 2 months, give or take a little bit. Now, I would suggest that you watch out carefully and be ready to move your pigs into the next paddock within 2 or 3 days if you have to. Chances are you won't have to do this with smaller pigs, but larger pigs, once it rains, they can absolutely destroy a paddock very, very quickly. Now, if the pigs destroy the paddock, it'll recover. The main thing you want to be able to do, though, is get the pigs out of the mud. Pigs can handle wet, they can handle cold. They can handle wind, but they don't handle all three of those very well at the same time. Let's say you moved your pigs on a Saturday, and then on Monday and Tuesday it starts raining. Wednesday or Thursday, I'd go on and move those pigs to the next paddock early. The main reason you want to be able to do that is just to be able to get them out of the mud and keep them from destroying the paddock. But it's better to be safe than sorry. And as a new pig raiser, it's going to take you a little bit of time to figure out what is good disturbance and what is bad disturbance on the soil. So be ready to move them into the second paddock fairly quickly if it's raining. There are a lot of variations on that. Sometimes I'll put 100 pigs in a half-acre paddock, especially if they're smaller pigs. They're not going to create nearly the disturbance that the larger pigs will. Now, once your pigs get 200 to 300 pounds, they will tear up anything. The point that I'm trying to make is you need to be flexible and you need to just watch and observe what's happening. For example, I've got 9 breeder pigs right now, large pigs on about a 3/4 of an acre lot. The first 3 days, I hardly fed them anything because I wanted them to graze the cover crops. Now I'm having them turn the soil, and now that I'm feeding them more, I want them to deposit more manure in the paddock to help it build up some fertility. But those 9 large pigs can do a world of a lot of damage if you're not careful. But I've also got a paddock right now with 6 pigs in it. They're going to the processor next week. They've been there for about a week and a half. I'm not going to move them. It'll make loading so much easier next week. I double checked with Christine from Heifer Ranch and Heifer USA, and they put 50 pigs per half acre, and they move them every 7 days. And they're a lot more strict about how frequently they move than we are. And that's more like 10 pigs per 4,000 square feet. But I think you need to have your rotations down fairly regularly, and it helps if you're not distracted by a job off farm. If you're wanting to maximize forage value, you may have to rotate your pigs much more frequently and give them a lot more space. I came out here to feed the pigs over here. Let me see. With this wide angle lens, I don't know if this camera is going to pick up all the turkeys over there. But there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I don't know. 14, maybe 18 pigs just on the other side of this pig paddock over here where I'm about to feed the pigs. Between the turkeys and fixing that water, I've lost my train of thought. They could go up with their mother way over yonder by that tote and get all the free choice feed they want, and they're going to try to steal it from these big pigs who are going to get mad at them and throw them around in a minute. If you're trying to maximize forage, you're going to want to put the pigs in the paddock and move them very frequently, usually every day if you can. The best way I found to do that is by strip grazing. I'll try to put a link in the video description to show you how I do that. But I've got these long skinny paddocks that the pigs are in right now, and they've got a little bit of shade in the woods behind me. They're about 700 feet by 70 or 80 feet wide, and I can just run a temporary wire every day and give them a new fresh strip of forage. But unless you have excellent, and I mean excellent forages for your pigs, things like peas and clovers, brassicas, chicory, dandelion, plantain, and many others, you're not going to get a whole lot of feed value out of the pasture. You have to be very, very intentional about what you're feeding. Now, if you have mixed stands of different forbs, like dandelion and chicory and plantain, along with some clovers and a lot of grass, you can move your pigs every day, but you're going to need much larger areas of land. Maybe as much as 1 pig per acre, and still need to move them every couple days. I'll try to link some other videos for you about how I saved money by grazing the pigs on cover crops, swine nutrition, and other things. But just know that it is a lot of intense work. Now, if you want the pigs to manure a paddock like I'm doing in this field right now, they grazed it the first couple days. Now I'm basically feeding them and trying to get them to drop a bunch of manure in this field before I plant it with winter rye. If your goal is to improve soil health, if your goal is to root up a bunch of weeds, the best thing you can do is put a lot of pigs on a small area of land. And what I mean by a lot of pigs, I mean 100 pigs on half an acre. The problem is that you're going to have to be very, very, very intentional about moving them fairly quickly. maybe as quickly as in 2 or 3 days. Hey, mama. Hey, mama. You're such a good mama. Tell you what, that's a passel of piglets right there. They are getting big. It's almost time to wean them. Let me mention briefly that I've got 2 newsletters that I send out fairly regularly. One is our Dowdle Family Farms newsletter, and that's where you're interested in purchasing our products, sales promotions, or whatever else through our retail cuts of meat. We have local pickup, local delivery, and we ship via UPS. You can sign up for that Dowdle Family Farms letter through a link in the video description. While I'm talking about grazing pigs on cover crops, let me mention that if you want more information about how to grow your farm, about what cover crops to plant or how you plant them or anything else, let me encourage you to sign up for our Grow Your Farm newsletter. Most of the topics in that newsletter range from growing cover crops to feed pigs, different pig handling care, many other things. And I'll also update you when we have feeder pigs and breeding stock available. Let me give a shout out to Mark from Sweden. He replied to my newsletter and actually prompted the topic of this video. Thanks for watching, Mark, and thanks for signing up to the newsletter. Finally, let me mention that I try to let our pig paddocks rest at least 30 days, but usually 60 to 90 days, but it all depends on the forage. Sometimes in the summers when we're moving our pigs quickly and the warm season forages are growing rapidly, and then there are times where the paddock behind me hadn't been grazed in over a month and probably won't be grazed for another 4 months. Start out with 2 to 5 pigs on about 4,000 square feet. Make sure you have enough room for 10 or 20 paddocks would be preferable. And then plan on moving the pigs at a minimum of every 7 days. You can do this, you'll do well. You may not save a whole lot of feed value at first, and you may save a ton depending on your forages. But you will have a hand in producing some excellent pork and helping build the soil on your farm. Y'all take care and have a great day.